On June 15, 2025, at the world's most advanced port, a $20 million automated crane, fresh from the factory floor, toppled in seconds, sending shockwaves through Singapore's $20 billion gamble on global trade. This was supposed to be the future of shipping: safer, faster, untouchable by failure. So how did the crown jewel of smart logistics end up as twisted steel? And what does a catastrophe like this mean for the way the goods on your grocery shelves actually get there? The answers start with the true cost of a single missing crane. A single ship-to-shore crane at a port like Tuas is not just a piece of equipment. It is a high-stakes investment, often priced between 10 million and 20 million United States dollars. For context, that is the cost of a dozen family homes in many cities, or enough to stock an entire supermarket with goods for months. When a brand new crane like this collapses before it ever lifts its first container, the financial impact is immediate and severe. Industry experts familiar with procurement and insurance at major ports estimate that the combined loss, factoring in the price of the crane, the cost to remove and replace it, and the delays in bringing the berth into service, can easily reach the mid-tens of millions. Unlike a forklift or truck that can be swapped out in a day, a modern ship-to-shore crane is a custom-built giant. Each one is engineered to match the world's largest container ships, with steel structures that rise over 100 meters and precision electronics that must withstand salt, wind, and the relentless pace of global trade. Buying a new unit is only the beginning. Delivery, installation, and commissioning add millions more, all before a single box is moved. For the port operator, this is not just a line item in a budget. The loss of a crane means a gap in the port's capacity, a missing link in the chain that connects factories in Asia to store shelves around the world. Insurers and underwriters step in quickly, launching their own reviews, because a claim of this size could be one of the largest single-asset payouts in the heavy lift sector this year. From a supply chain economist's view, the ripple effects go beyond the initial bill. Delays in replacing the crane can slow down the start of new berths, affecting how many ships the port can handle at once. That, in turn, can influence shipping schedules, freight rates, and even the prices of goods that depend on just-in-time delivery. In global logistics, time is money, and a single crane's collapse can mean containers sitting longer at sea, trucks waiting at the gate, and a subtle but real uptick in costs that eventually reaches the consumer. This is why the investigation into what happened is so urgent. With tens of millions on the line and the reputation of a flagship port at stake, every day lost is measured not just in dollars, but in the trust that shippers, retailers, and ordinary families place in the system that keeps goods moving. Singapore's rise as a global shipping hub has always been shaped by geography and necessity. For decades, the island nation's container terminals stretched along the southern waterfront, squeezed between city life and the relentless flow of ships. By the late 2010s, these scattered terminals, Tanjong Pagar, Brani, Keppel, and Pasir Panjang, were handling close to 38 million standard containers a year, measured in 20-foot equivalent units. That volume put Singapore among the world's busiest ports, but the system was reaching its limits. Ships were getting bigger, city land was growing scarcer, and regional rivals like Shanghai and Rotterdam were scaling up fast. Government planners and port executives faced a stark choice: keep patching up aging terminals in the city center, or build something entirely new. The answer came in the form of Tuas Megaport, a $20 billion project on reclaimed land at the western edge of the island. Instead of dozens of berths scattered across downtown, Tuas would bring every container operation into a single, purpose-built complex. The vision was not just about scale, but about transformation, turning Singapore into the world's largest fully automated container port with a planned capacity of 65 million 20-foot equivalent units a year by the 2040s. That is nearly double the city's historic throughput, and enough to keep pace with the biggest ships and the fastest trade routes for decades to come. The move to Tuas promised more than just numbers. By shifting the port away from the heart of the city, Singapore could unlock prime waterfront real estate for housing, parks, and new business districts. Urban planners saw an opportunity to reconnect people with the shoreline, turning old container yards into vibrant neighborhoods and green spaces. For the Port Authority, the consolidation meant sharper efficiency. No more shuttling containers between distant terminals, fewer bottlenecks, and the ability to deploy the latest automation technology across a unified platform. Automation sits at the heart of Tuas's ambition. The new port is designed from the ground up for driverless vehicles, remote-controlled cranes, and digital management systems that can orchestrate thousands of container moves with millimeter precision. Every piece of equipment, from the tallest ship-to-shore crane to the smallest automated guided vehicle, is networked into a central nervous system. The goal is not just to move more boxes, but to move them smarter, safer, and with fewer people exposed to risk on the docks. This strategy comes with enormous financial and technical demands. The $20 billion budget covers not just the land and the buildings, but a new generation of equipment, cranes that can reach across the widest ships afloat, software that predicts vessel arrivals, and infrastructure resilient enough to handle the shocks of global trade. For Singapore, Tuas is both a bet on the future of shipping and a blueprint for how a city can grow when every square meter counts. The decisions made here shape not only the flow of goods across continents, but also the daily lives of millions who depend on what arrives in those containers. Hundreds of containers arrive and depart every hour at Tuas Megaport, but the process unfolds with a calm regularity that belies the scale of the operation. Across the vast concrete yards, a fleet of automated guided vehicles slip between stacks, each one moving silently on electric power and guided not by people, but by a digital fleet management system. There are now more than 200 automated guided vehicles in service, and each can carry either two standard 20-foot containers or a single 40-foot box, weaving between cranes at speeds up to 25 kilometers per hour. Every movement is tracked in real time, the routes mapped out by software that calculates the most efficient path and avoids collisions, even as new ships arrive or weather changes. Above the yard, operators work from the Tuas Port Control Center, a building set miles from the waterfront. Here, the port's digital twin comes to life, a detailed virtual model of every berth, crane, vehicle, and container in play. On massive screens, the entire port is rendered as a living map, with each automated guided vehicle and crane shown as a moving icon. Operators monitor operations, respond to alarms, and when needed, take remote control of cranes using joysticks and high-definition video feeds. The goal is to keep human workers away from the quayside, placing them instead in climate-controlled rooms where precision and safety are easier to maintain. The backbone of this system is the event-driven architecture that keeps data flowing between equipment, software, and people. Every automated guided vehicle, crane, and yard block is connected through a private 5G network, with real-time status updates and commands traveling across a resilient event mesh. This design acts as a shock absorber, absorbing spikes in data and ensuring that if one part of the network falters, the rest can keep operating. The system is built for redundancy, so that even a dropped signal or a temporary software hiccup does not bring container moves to a halt. For the port's automated cranes, precision is non-negotiable. Each ship-to-shore crane must be positioned along its rails with millimeter accuracy. The rails themselves are surveyed and installed to tight tolerances, since even a few millimeters of misalignment can cause a crane, sometimes topping 100 meters in height, to become unstable as it rolls along the quay. Sensors embedded in the cranes provide constant feedback on position, load, and tilt. Safety interlocks and programmable logic controllers enforce strict limits, stopping movement if anything is out of range. This digital choreography means that under normal circumstances, Tuas can move containers around the clock, with minimal downtime and almost no direct human exposure to the biggest hazards. The automated guided vehicles do not tire or lose focus, and the automated cranes follow their programmed routines without deviation. But this same reliance on automation and software means that the system's safety depends as much on the quality of its data and the integrity of its digital twin as on the strength of steel or the depth of concrete foundations. Every new crane, every realignment of rails or update to the control software must fit seamlessly into this tightly controlled environment. Any deviation, a misaligned rail, a missed calibration, or a procedural shortcut during installation can introduce risks that the automation cannot predict or correct. In a port where containers are routed by algorithms and cranes are managed from afar, the line between routine and disaster is drawn in millimeters and milliseconds. At 1:20 p.m. on June 15, 2025, the calm at Tuas Port was broken by the sudden collapse of a new ship-to-shore crane during its delivery to a non-operational berth. Video shared online captured the moment. The front of the crane, the waterside legs, lost support, and the massive boom pitched forward, crashing down onto the concrete. The rear structure remained partly upright, twisted and inert, while the dust settled. No one was hurt, and the rest of the port carried on, but the image of a toppled giant sent shockwaves through the engineering world. For those who build and maintain these cranes, the sequence of failure raised immediate questions. Why would a brand new, multi-million-dollar crane, engineered for precision and installed at one of the safest, most automated ports on Earth, tip over before ever lifting a container? The collapse did not happen during cargo operations or a storm, but during the controlled process of moving the crane into position. That fact alone narrowed the field of possible causes. Independent structural engineers who reviewed the footage and public reports pointed to three main categories of technical failure. First, center of gravity miscalculation. Ship-to-shore cranes are designed with their weight carefully balanced over two lines of rails, one by the water and one further inland. During delivery, the boom is often raised and trolleys may not be in their final positions, shifting the center of gravity forward. If the balance point moves too far seaward, even by a small margin, the crane can tip, much like a shopping cart overloaded at the front. Second, ground support and settlement. Tuas is built on reclaimed land, where the concrete quay sits atop layers of fill and engineered foundation. If the ground beneath the waterside rails is not fully consolidated, or if temporary supports are used during delivery, even a slight weakness or uneven settlement can cause the rail or supporting plinth to drop. A local loss of support under one of the waterside bogies would be enough to start the crane tilting, with the entire structure's weight amplifying the movement in seconds. Third, dynamic forces during transport. Moving a crane of this size, over 100 meters tall and weighing hundreds of tons, places unique stresses on the structure and its supports. Braking too quickly, encountering a rail misalignment, or a sudden shift in weight as the crane crosses a transition point can create forces that exceed what the rails or quay can withstand. For next-generation models with dual trolleys and extended outreach, the complexity of the moving mass increases the risk, especially if any part of the system is out of calibration or procedure is not followed exactly. The visible pattern of the Tuas collapse, the front legs giving way, the boom slamming downward, and the rear frame left standing, suggests that the initial failure occurred at or near the waterside rail. Whether the trigger was a foundation issue, a support miscalculation, or an unanticipated force during movement, the result was the same. The crane's center of gravity moved beyond its tipping line, and gravity did the rest. Forensic engineers now face a checklist of evidence. They will look at geotechnical surveys of the key, installation protocols, as-built rail alignments, and commissioning record. Control system logs, if available, can reveal the crane's position, speed, and any alarms triggered in the seconds before the fall. Video footage will be synchronized with these records to reconstruct the sequence of events. Only by piecing together this data can investigators determine whether the collapse was rooted in the ground below, the steel above, or the process in between. The search for answers is as much about restoring trust as it is about understanding the mechanics of failure. Engineers and regulators at Tuas now turn to a mountain of digital records and physical documents, seeking to reconstruct the collapse second by second. Every automated crane, vehicle, and sensor at the port feeds streams of data into a central event mesh, a digital backbone that logs each command, alarm, and movement in real time. Forensic specialists begin by requesting geotechnical reports from the berth's construction, borehole logs, settlement surveys, and foundation design files, all of which reveal how the ground was prepared to support hundreds of tons of moving steel. Next come the installation protocols and as-built rail alignment surveys, which detail whether the crane's rails were level and anchored to specification. On the digital side, investigators pull control system logs from the crane's programmable logic controllers. These records show drive commands, speed changes, tilt sensor outputs, and any triggered safety interlocks in the moments before the collapse. The event mesh architecture ensures that these logs are time-stamped and coordinated across systems, allowing experts to match them with closed-circuit television footage and operator actions. Fleet management logs from the automated guided vehicles are also reviewed, checking for any unusual movement or proximity to the crane during delivery. The checklist grows: inspection sign-offs, torque records for anchor bolts, and commissioning certificates are scrutinized for gaps. Each data point is a potential clue, from the tiniest millimeter of rail misalignment to a split-second alarm that may have gone unheeded. In a port built on automation, the evidence is as much digital as physical, and the search for truth depends on how well each layer of the system recorded what happened when a $20 million machine began to fall. A crane collapse at a major port like Tuas might sound distant, but the effects reach far beyond the waterfront. Singapore's port sits at a crossroads of global trade, a transshipment hub where containers from factories in China, Vietnam, and across Southeast Asia are switched between ships bound for Europe, the Middle East, and the Americas. When something disrupts even a small part of this system, the consequences can ripple outward in ways most people never notice until a favorite product is out of stock or prices quietly inch up at the store. Think about what this means for us and how the containers that reach our stores actually work. Economists who study supply chains point out how a single delay can cascade. If a berth is out of service even briefly, shipping lines may need to reschedule vessel calls or reroute containers through other ports. That can mean containers with electronics or fresh fruit spend extra days at sea or in transit, missing delivery windows for retailers. In some cases, a gap in just-in-time inventory can leave supermarket shelves short of certain items for a day or two. The impact may be subtle, a delayed batch of phone chargers, or apples arriving past their prime, but it is woven into the price tags and availability shoppers see every week. What kept this accident from becoming a supply chain crisis was Tuas's modular design. The port is built so that each berth operates as a largely independent unit, with its own cranes and automated vehicles. When the new crane collapsed at a non-operational berth, The rest of the port carried on, loading and unloading ships without interruption. That compartmentalization is deliberate, designed to ensure a single failure does not bring the entire system to a halt. For consumers, it means the containers carrying groceries, electronics, and everyday essentials kept moving, and the shock of a multi-million-dollar accident stayed largely invisible to those outside the port gates. Right now, global trade depends on ports designed for flawless precision, yet even the most advanced systems reveal hidden risks. As automation accelerates, every failure echoes far beyond the dock, shaping the prices and reliability of goods in our daily lives. The real test is not just technology, but vigilance. The next container that arrives at your store carries that lesson. What would you trust to carry your world? Share your thoughts below.